Wow, that was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone.
Good to see you, Kristen.
Yeah, thank you. When I was 5 years old, my mother always told me that happiness was the key to life. When I went to school, they asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I wrote down happy. They told me I didn't understand the assignment, and I told them they didn't understand life. John Lennon. That's great.
I need to say that he was one of the co-writers of the song that I just sang.
Wow.
All
Okay.
right.
You know, you got to give credit where credit's due.
There you go. There you go.
Did you know that?
Yes, of course
Okay,
I
of
knew
course.
that. Oh, no, we're not doing that yet.
Perfect self-expression will never be labor, but of such self-absorbing interest that it will seem like almost play. The student knows also, as man comes into the world financed by God, the supply needed for his perfect self-expression will be at hand. By Florence Chevelle Shin, The Game of Life and How to Play It, page 72.
Could you read that one more time?
Sure. Yeah, I had to read it a couple times to
Mm-hmm.
really get it. Perfect self-expression will never be labor, but of such absorbing interest that it will seem almost like play. The student knows also, as man comes into the world financed by God, the supply needed for his perfect self-expression will be at hand.
Mm.
So please read with me the affirmation with enthusiasm.
We got to go back one more. Oh, no, there we go.
There we are. Okay. Today
I
I
create
create
a
a new
new
reality.
reality.
I
I listen
listen
within
within
for
for
the
the
newly
newly
emerging
emerging
vision,
vision,
pulled
pulled
by
by
a
a
vision
vision
of
of
possibilities.
possibilities.
I
I
choose
choose
words,
words,
thoughts,
thoughts,
and
and
actions
actions
that
that
speak
speak
the
the
truth
truth of the
of the
vision
vision
for
for
my
my
life
life
and
and for
for
the
the
planet.
planet.
Thank you, Kristen. Mm. Sorry. I think I'm going to see if, can I borrow this? You're not going to use this at all? Let's see. All right. This will be better for me, I think. Okay, that's better. I like to be out here with you guys. So we live in a field of dreams, yes? These beautiful images looking all around us reminds us all the time that we live in a world of infinite possibilities. Visions abound that pull us forward into the desire to express ourselves more fully. And everything that we need to do that, to accomplish that, to fulfill our purpose, is already here, present and available to us and for us and as us. And the reading that Kristen just shared with Florence Scovel Shin reminds us of that we are given everything that we need to produce whatever it is that we are here to produce, to be the fullness, the richness, the wholeness of who we are. That's pretty cool, right? Right. So this whole month, we've been talking about the endless possibilities, the visions pulling us forward into our fullest and highest expression. Vision, to me, comes as that feeling of excitement, that feeling of enthusiasm, that warming of the heart, that spark within, that quickening of the heart that says, there's something here I want to do. There's something here that's exciting me. There's something here that's drawing me forward. The beloved actress, Audrey Hepburn, who knew her truth, even though she grew up as a young woman in the German occupation in the Netherlands with much lack and limitation in her life. difficulty getting enough to eat. When the war was over, she had a vision for herself. And she got some training in acting. And she's no longer with us in body now, but she became one of the most beloved actresses across this planet. Won Academy Awards. Many of you must know her name. And one of her films was Breakfast at Tiffany's, one of the most charming films ever made, I think. Anyway, so this is what she said. She said, "Nothing is impossible. The very word itself says, I'm possible." So let's say that together. Nothing is impossible. The very word itself says, I'm possible. I'm going to be fighting with this thing. I should have put that tape on. Anyway, hold on just a sec. All right, so I am possible. I am here, and I am here for a purpose. I'm in the sea of infinite possibility. I'm quickened by the heart, and I'm being drawn towards something. I want to express myself. We also experience a distraction. And I don't know about you, but my inbox today is full of infinite opportunities that draw me away from my purpose to say, oh, there's a webinar maybe I should take. Oh, there's a product maybe I should buy. Oh, there's another course. And they're all promising me to fulfill myself from without. I don't think I need this.
You don't need it.
Yeah.
You could hold it like this.
Right, well, if I need it, I know. But you can hear me, right?
Yes. Oh, if you want to record it. Record it.
All right, sorry.
You have to have it.
No, we don't. We don't. We don't. All right. So distractions. So I'm pulled by my vision, and then I'm distracted by other people's visions. I'm sure so many of them are wonderful, wonderful programs. And yet, is that my calling, and is that something I need? Or is that just my monkey mind allowing me to be distracted from that which I want to be doing in my own life and offering to the world as my gift? We received so many gifts from John Lennon, did we not? Magnificent beauty, grace, information, and light that has informed probably 3 generations, and I know it'll be beyond that point. Not only is life full of distractions, but then sometimes there are absolute disruptions. Sometimes something arises that stops us in our tracks, and it feels like a slap on the face. And the Master Jesus has told us that when we receive a slap on the face, turn the other cheek. Now that always disturbed me because I thought, why am I coming back for another slap? But a couple of years ago, I was in the presence of John Deere. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a powerful spiritual activist who's been on the front lines of conflict, proclaiming peace and harmony amongst all peoples for his whole life. And he was here giving a talk in Wilmington. I think he's going to be coming back every year. But the way he explained it to me and all of us in the room at that time was it's not to receive another insult, but to turn away from the disruption to the focus of your purpose, to the truth, to the vision, to the wholeness, to your path, to the light, to where it is that you want to go. So today we're going to be exploring many ways in which this has shown up in people's lives that we may know or may not know yet. I know this is something that takes place in all of our lives. We're disrupted, we're distracted, and yet we still have that capability because, as Florence Scovel-Shinn said, we're filled with whatever we need to bring our purpose into full form and fruition. Sounds good, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, I question myself, how many lives have succumbed to be unfulfilled because of circumstances? How many I am presences live in I might have been? Do any of us want to be that? Do we want to let go of the power of our lives and succumb and surrender? Or do we want to surrender to the divine truth that I am here for a purpose, I am full of light, and I am bringing my light, whatever it is. It's light, my gift, to this planet. That's what I'm here for. Whatever way in which I individually have been gifted to share it. I say yes. Do you say yes? Yes. All right. So, how do we stay connected to the vision when everything around us contradicts that it's possible? And when I sat down and started thinking about this, the first word that came to my mind was grit. Not the usual word that might come to your mind, but it's a word that I've heard many times from one of the master teacher. I love Kundalini Yoga, and the master teacher of Kundalini Yoga, grit is one of his favorite words. And even though it's not glamorous and it's kind of gravelly and gray, within that word are essence qualities that support us, that fulfill us, that sustain us, that represent the truth of who we are. So let's just uncover that a little bit right now. Then there's so many other words. These are just some that came to my mind. Grit, generosity, gratitude, gumption, resilience, resourcefulness, responsibility. Let's say it together. Inspiration, initiative, intention, tenacity, trust, truth. How do those words feel when you say them out loud? Powerful. And what is one of the truth principles of the divine? Power. And that is who we are. So these are the words that inform us. Not lack, not limitation, not can't, not worry, not fear, not distrust, but let's read it again. Generosity, gratitude, gumption, resilience, resourcefulness, responsibility, inspiration, initiative, intention, tenacity, trust, and truth. Feels good, right? Okay. So, last week, Reverend Kathleen brought to our attention about what we're seeking when we have a vision is not only the end goal, but all the feelings that we experience along the way and in the culmination. It's about feeling through our life. We are not automatons that are just intellect. We are heart-centered beings, which gives us that spirit of joy, and which really, that's the impulse that calls us forward. Love. As David was bringing forth in his music, and I know will continue to do throughout the day. It's that quality of love. It's that quality of love that I heard when John Lennon said, happiness, and you don't understand life if you don't think that's the assignment, is striving for that which brings me joy. And when I'm in joy, I'm able to share that with others. John Lennon gave us this beautiful quote as well. Let's read that together. We need to learn to love ourselves first in all our glory and our imperfections. If we cannot love ourselves, we cannot fully open to our ability to love others or our potential to create. Evolution and all hopes for a better world rest in the fearlessness and open-hearted vision of people who embrace life. Open-hearted vision. What we do is for a greater good than just ourselves, but it has to start with ourselves. When I am the presence of love, then I share that love with others around me. I emanate that love. So John Lennon was very clear on the vision of his life, and he found music as the vehicle to express it. He was a powerful innovator. He demonstrated amazing success, and yet he didn't start out as a young child with what you might say the support to provide the capability. And people who start from very little are those master demonstrators for us that it is within each one of us. It is within each one of us, no matter what our circumstances or background. It is that spark within that pulls us forward, and he found music and then gifted it to all of us. I know that all you need is love. Give peace a chance, and imagine will resonate for all time, and still do. We call on them every year when we close our December 31st service, singing Imagine. Imagine was what I was alluding to when we bless those who have given service to us as a country. We imagine that there's something greater so we don't fight with each other in violence. That's a vision that we can all hold. So, but the question is, what makes us happy? What's calling us forward? What is calling you forward? And then remember that nothing is impossible. The word itself indicates that I'm possible. So let's ground in that one more time. Nothing is impossible. The word itself says I'm possible. So obstacles arise in many, many ways. And let's move on to resilience and resourceful. This is Susan B. Anthony. And let's just read her quote with her. Forget conventionalisms. Forget what the world thinks of you stepping out of your place. Think your best thoughts. Speak your best words. Work your best works. Looking to your own consciousness for approval. So she is from the same era. She is a peer of Ralph Waldo Emerson, who we're studying in From Whence We Came right now. This is the history of New Thought, which is Centers for Spiritual Living, is a New Thought center. And this is the reminder that self-reliance was one of the essays that Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, and that's a reminder that you have, I have, we have everything within us. Trust ourselves, know ourselves, love ourselves. Well, Susan B. Anthony, who many of you I must have heard of, she was a woman of purpose, passion, and pluck. She was raised in New England in a Quaker family of activists. She was a major moving force in the abolitionist movement against slavery before the Civil War. And then after the Civil War, her sights were set on equal rights for women, and she endlessly fought for women's rights and self-determination. She penned the first draft of the 19th Amendment, even though it hadn't come to being yet, and that was the amendment which gave women the right to vote. She was arrested for illegally voting for the presidential candidate. I think it was in 1872. She was fined $100 for doing so, and she refused to pay it. She went on. This is another thing she did, it's hysterical. She convinced the University of Rochester, which did not allow women into the universities because women didn't need higher education because they were owned basically by their husbands or their fathers and were not allowed to earn money. They could earn money, but it belonged to the husband or the father. So she convinced the university to allow women into higher education. I mean, this was just a little over 100 years ago. It's hard to believe because, I'm looking at my lifetime. It isn't that much further back that, my grandmother's time. And certainly my great-grandmother's time. My goodness. So, let me just see here. There we go. So she demonstrated these qualities of resilience, resourcefulness, and a powerful sense of responsibility because she did not do this just for herself. She saw the vision of inequality and knew that that was a false vision, particularly in a country birthed as the ideal of democracy. So she had her sights on vision, and no matter what, she was ostracized, she was abused, but she stood her ground and was the master to bring, to bring the idea of equality into full fruition into this country. We're still working on it today, so we all have this work to do. But she is a beacon to guide us and lead us in that direction. She knew nothing is impossible, but by the very word, she is possible, I am possible. So moving on to Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh made me think of these qualities, the I qualities. What was it? Intuition, intention, inspiration. Vincent van Gogh was a troubled man, and yet he painted over 2,000 magnificent paintings, absolutely full of light. From what I read, he only sold one of his paintings before he died. To his brother. That's right. To his brother. He had a loving family that supported him. He struggled with mental illness, doubt, depression. And yet, as you see, that light within him, that spark within him, pulled him forward. He had an intention to recreate, to see, to try to express as well as he could the beauty and the grace of nature that he saw around him. He wanted to embody and share that with others. He was inspired by nature. He was inspired by the idea of creation. And he fulfilled his intentions as a nonconformist and gave the world the gift of his vision unapologetically, demonstrating that great intuition and follow-through of calling. History proved his brilliance after his death, unfortunately. The purchase price for one of his paintings of Dr. Gagé in 1990 was $82,500,000. He is still among the 10 most sought and expensive artists in the world, and he is renowned across this planet as a visionary. He gave his gift no matter what. There was no return, and we all love return. But his return was in the creations that he made. Sometimes we aren't lauded for what we do, but we do it because of that inner calling. We know we're here to do it. And that truly, ultimately, is the reward. He lived his life in truth. Okay, so moving on. Just this week, I came across this announcement. And we talk about obstacles, disasters, setbacks that sometimes deter us from our vision, and it becomes easy to give up. This week, I read about, I don't know how to pronounce his name exactly, but I'm going to give a try. It's Zhao Boju, and he is a paraplegic who attempted to summit Mount Everest. He had this calling. He's had this vision his whole life. I think it was 40 years ago was his first attempt. And on that attempt, he got terrible frostbite and both of his feet had to be amputated. He did not stop, however. His vision was still very clear. 10 years after losing his feet to the frostbite, he got lymphoma in his legs, and so his legs had to be amputated above the knees. But still he had the vision. He attempted Mount Everest 6 times. as a paraplegic. And this year, May 14th, he summited Mount Everest. He summited Mount Everest. You could go to the next slide. Look at that. I mean, talk about a vision. That's a divine vision in my book, right? That's a divine vision. And he had the vision to not conquer, but become one with that mountain. To know the heights of the height of the, I think it's the highest point on the planet. So this was his vision. Nothing deterred him. Losing both of his legs did not deter him. So, when I think about this man, and when I thought about it then, it just sort of like took my breath away, made me smile. I felt the excitement, I felt the passion, I still do now, of his purpose and his joy. I can feel that joy. I can feel that happiness that John Lennon was talking about. What makes you happy? He knew what made him happy. It was the call of the mountain. So whatever your call is, the call and answering the call to me is that which creates heaven on earth. We talk about heaven on earth. We use that in our intention statement now. A world that is heaven on earth, a world that works for all. So how do we create heaven on earth? We create it with our minds. We begin everything in our minds. Each of these people brought heaven on earth in their minds as they fulfilled that calling of their soul, of their spirit. To create our own dreams in this field of possibilities, Don Miguel Ruiz, the Toltec shaman who wrote The Four Agreements, which is one of my favorite books, and I was just reviewing it recently, he reminds us to approach our goals with one intention. And he says, set an intention and make a commitment, make a deep commitment. And I add, if your goal or your intention does not bring fire to your heart, then it's not a goal for you. It's something that quickens your heart, gives you excitement, a thrill. Set an intention. And then pay attention to it. How many times have you said, and I've done this, I claim this. I have this amazing idea. I said, I'd really like to do that. And then I allow myself to get distracted. And then 6 months later, someone's doing exactly what I had intended to do, which is fine. But paying attention to it, I would have brought that goal into fruition as well. There's other things that I do and have fulfilled, and that's all good. It may have not have been mine to do. Learn to control your attention from the inside. Again, back to letting go of distractions. Something is always asking for your attention, but we get to choose. That's the freedom. That's the divine principle. We get to choose. Then take action. Faith without works is dead. It is only through our actions that we live, that we experience this gift of life that we are given. Ask yourself what gives you joy and then begin it. Just take the first steps. And then the last one is practice. It is in the repetition that we create new neural pathways that support us moving forward, that change our mind, that break the old habits. And Don Miguel Ruiz calls them the agreements. The old agreements, letting go of those old agreements. We overlay them with a new roadwork, a new superhighway, and we program our memories for this new thing. Practice what creates the master. Practice is what creates the master. Principle is not bound by precedent. Whatever was before is made new by our thought. Heaven is that place in our minds, and we create it here in the flesh. So together, let's claim one last time. Nothing is impossible. Why, the word itself says, I'm possible. And together we create heaven on earth. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. You're
I know,
up,
right?
David.
Okay. You're such a light, Candace. Well, before we start a short meditation,